With this changes that we're due to see into the stage 3 tax cuts, we'll dig into the figures and find out exactly what Labor's tax cut changes might mean for you. My good mate Sky News business editor Ross Greenwood stuck around to have a chat. This is clearly a broken promise, but what does it mean for the economy of the country? Is this potentially going to add, Ross, to our fears on inflation?
Oh, of course it is, because any money that goes into the economy, it didn't really matter who the money went to, ultimately is going to come back out to the economy. And so that will make the Reserve Bank's job even tougher when it comes to considering interest rates, because of course it's looking to get inflation down. But if the government is almost acting counterintuitively to the Reserve Bank right now, it's almost as though one has got its foot on the accelerator and the other's got its foot on the brake. If the government was to be basically pardoned for anything right now, it might have been to significantly reduce the stage 3 tax cuts to take some pressure off the Reserve Bank and to try and see if you get inflation down more quickly and therefore get interest rates down more quickly. But to do it in this way really does almost beg a belief in some ways, given the fact that also those low and middle income workers had got the lion's share of the stage 1 and stage 2 tax cuts and low income offsets as well. So from that point of view, they have already been the major beneficiaries of the taxes that have been basically handed out back to the public.
$150,000 is the figure that the PM settled on, and above that you're going to go backwards on what you thought you were going to get rather than get some more money in your pocket. $150,000 in this day and age is not a massive salary, is it, Ross? And I note you had some fantastic figures that showed the percentage of tax paid was predominantly paid by people on salaries over that level.
Yeah, well, OK, this is what it works out. I did this today. This is based on the tax office's actual numbers. I've drilled down into it today. The top 1% of tax of earners in Australia pay 18.3% of all taxes. Now, those people are earning more than $377,000 a year, so they're well off, there's no doubt. Now, the top 3% pay about 28.1%. Now, the interesting thing about this is they earn, the top 10% there, you can see pay 46%. They earn more than $137,000 a year. So get that, the top 10% pay 46% of the tax. The bottom 50%, right, the bottom 50% who earn probably about less than $80,000 a year, they pay 11% of the tax. And the reason why they pay so little net tax is because they are big beneficiaries, as Pauline Hanson said, of family tax benefits A, family tax benefits B, rental assistance, a whole range of other issues that come into it. So the interesting thing is when you get to people below $45,000 a year, they're basically collecting from the government more than $6.5 billion more than what they're paying in tax. They pay very, very little to nothing in tax, but they collect enormous amounts back. So in other words, if you don't have people at the top end effectively working hard, earning more, paying more tax, being affected by bracket creep, getting more tax the whole time, those people at the bottom end don't have anything. And so really, this is, again, this distribution or redistribution of income, the people at the top end have got to be very concerned about. And the fact that they're got to leave that 37 cents in the dollar tax bracket there doesn't flatten out the tax scales, doesn't give more incentive to get a second job, doesn't give more incentive to go and improve yourself. It really takes away some of that incentive for Australians to earn. And I think that's where the backlash will come politically against the government.
You've got to suspect, Ross, that this backflip is what you can call it, or a broken promise, must have been agreed to by Jim Chalmers and Anthony Albanese, the two most senior members of the Parliament or of the government. They must have had to convince some other colleagues that they could break this promise. But you get a sense, and you've got to ask yourself, why did they spend all that time during the election campaign and since saying that there'd be no change when they knew that they were inside the party dead set against these stage 3 tax cuts?
Well, there is the point. And even as early as this month, in January, the Prime Minister has said there's been no change to the policy. But then suddenly there has been. Now, there's been a political judgment here as well, and it's a numbers game. It's always a numbers game, politics, and that is those people in those higher tax brackets. And I do note one little thing. There's a major industrial dispute started in coal mines in Queensland, and there's 6 or 7 unions that are taking on, or rather companies being taken on by one union. Now, the average union pay of those people involved in that case $167,000 a year. They're not poor, right? This is the interesting part about this. So as I say, there's going to be an interesting backlash for the government about who is wealthy and who will vote for them and who will be affected by this and who will not be, and whether they can garner more votes, because of course the ultimate test as to whether this has been an astute political judgment by the Prime Minister and by the Treasurer is at the next ballot box, because any government can tax us according to exactly how they want to. High taxes, death tax, do whatever you like. But the real judgment is people can then vote for or against those. And that's the key here. That's the political judgment that the Labor Party is making today.
Ross, it was good to catch up. Thank you very much, mate. Business editor for Sky, Ross Greenwood. Catch him every day at 4:30.